I'm going to guess many of you, but probably not all of you, watched the vice presidential debate last night. A lot of people commenting afterwards, online and in-person conversations about the appearance and who seemed to win and kind of the demeanor and facial expressions, especially of Kamala Harris. I want to hit some points. I want to talk about the debate, because not just from the why does she have to smirk so much attitude, but really kind of deeper thought about what we do in this country to choose a president and vice president. Because many people argue, most Americans, vast majority, make up their mind before we even have a debate. So why we're spending all this time, money, distraction and analysis on debate stage when most Americans are not, they're already tuned in, they know who they're going to vote for. But I want to hit some basic things about it. I'm starting with the whole concept of having the presidential debate commission that sets all these up, that makes the rules ahead of time and sets them up. It was supposed to be bipartisan. But as we've seen so far, saw again last night and saw in the first debate, they are simply not capable of choosing, and maybe these people don't even exist, but are not capable of choosing actual neutral moderators. And so I have a suggestion. I'm going to run through some of the reasons I'm telling you last night that moderator was very pro-leftist, pro-Biden, pro-Kamala Harris. But I have a suggestion about what we should do with these presidential debates. If we're going to have a commission or some organization that helps the parties agree on dates and cities and all that kind of stuff, let them do logistics. Let each candidate, this is for the presidential, vice presidential debates, let each candidate designate a moderator. So you have 2 moderators every debate, and you have rules for those moderators. For example, the moderator chosen by the Republican, either asks all the questions of the Democrat, and then the opposite happens. The Democrat moderator asks the Republican questions, or you split it up. So the Republican designated moderator gets half the questions in to the Republican candidate, half the Democrat. Make it that way. Drop the farce that there's any such thing as a neutral moderator, because there isn't. There's barely a neutral journalist. All these people claiming journalistic integrity and we're above all the fray of politics. We're journalists. They're all biased. They all have their own. And the thing is, they're just human beings. Of course they have their own opinions. Of course they have views on all sorts of issues. But I'll tell you last night, just a few quick examples why I said the moderator last night, as my dad used to say, who looked like a very nice person, named Susan Page. Just so you understand who she is, she's currently writing a biography of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and has been spending an enormous amount of time working closely, directly with Nancy Pelosi for several months. Okay, right there, who would choose? I would not choose to write a book about Nancy Pelosi. No conservative would, unless it was a critical book. This woman is writing a praiseworthy book about about Nancy Pelosi. So you had her, I'll just give you examples of the questions. She said something like, the first question to Vice President Pence was that the U.S. death toll, this is about COVID, U.S. death toll was worse than almost any other wealthy country on earth. The fact, the U.S. case fatality rate of 2.8% is below Italy, United Kingdom, Belgium, Sweden, Canada, France, Netherlands, Spain, Switzerland, and Germany. So the question was very much like one of those questions I was talking about the other day, where they teach you in law school that, you have to object if they ask this kind of question. Simply a kind of question like, do you still beat your wife? You can't answer it because there's a lie in the question. And so you have to force them to ask an honest question. This is a lie in the question, and it was intended to put Vice President Pence off guard, to be defensive of the Trump administration's handling of COVID virus. They also, she had the whole notion of the economy. This moderator asking questions of Vice President Pence last night said, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. I mean, first of all, what a vague and loaded and frankly farce of a question. Many good numbers are coming out about our economy, many good numbers about our recovery after the COVID shutdown. In fact, we have right now, the Atlanta Federal Reserve is estimating that the third quarter GDP growth will be more than 35%, which would be the largest in history. I could go on and on and on, but the questions were loaded with lies. the questions for Vice President Pence were loaded with lies. So if you're going to have these debates, you got to have a moderator chosen by each side. Let each moderator have exactly the same standard timing questions to whom they ask questions, and then you might end up with a debate a little bit fairer. But beyond that moderator thing, I actually thought Vice President Pence pretty much knocked it out of the park last night. He is, as he always is, unflappable, even-keeled, well-informed, very insightful. He has a warm way of speaking. It's like when you listen to him, you're thinking, I'd have that guy over for Thanksgiving dinner. I'd invite him and his family. He has a warmth about him. He stayed even-keeled. He did talk over the end of his time period. He's often say, you have 2 minutes to answer this. You know, if that is the sin of the century, then I don't know. And because the fact is, that kind of thing it occurs in all of the primary debates. It occurs regularly when you have what was a Democrat primary presidential candidates or the Republicans. They give you 2 minutes, and you have people answering a question in the time frame, and they often don't finish on time. They talk over the end of their time period, and sometimes the moderator is saying, hey, Mr. So-and-so or Ms. So-and-so, time's up, time's up. The fact is, you're electing a leader. You're not electing a church mouse who is going to instantly jump into stand and salute and silence once a moderator says time is up. You're not going to do that. In fact, so the talking over thing over the end of the time period, both of them did it. Probably Vice President Pence did it a little bit more, but not significantly, and pretty much just to end his point. You have, as the timing allotted to each, it turned out afterward that Vice President Pence got 38 minutes to speak, and Senator Kamala Harris, got 35 minutes. Okay, so he got 3 extra minutes. Pretty much in a debate of that length, it's about the same. And really, it wasn't a significant amount of time difference. But on the substance, the depth of what I thought Vice President Pence accomplished, what he was able to do was to pull out of her, by the questions he turned and asked her, pull out of her, they're not committing not to pack the Supreme Court, a monumentally consequential attempt they may make. Monumentally consequential. If they're going to change 150 years of American history with 9 people sitting on that court and pack the court because they didn't get their way on this nomination we have right now pending before the Senate of Amy Coney Barrett. The idea that they're even contemplating that they won't say, oh no, that would be out of bounds, that would be extreme, we're not doing that. He got her to admit that, and the American people now know that without doubt. I thought that was a consequential and very, very helpful admission he pretty much got out of her. Could not get her to acknowledge what she signed on to as a senator. She said she signed on the Green New Deal. She's trying to backpedal out of it, saying, oh, no, we're nothing about fracking. We're not banning fracking. We're not doing. I mean, she's either standing by her word and what she did back in the Green New Deal, and she raised her hand on stage when she was part of the lineup of presidential candidates on the Democrat side. They said, hey, Green New Deal or not, oh yeah, that's me. So he got her to admit she's not really, and I think they don't have a strong agenda they're willing to stand with. They got her to, essentially, Pence got her to acknowledge that. They don't have a strong agenda that they're willing to stand with. They are willing to fluff and duck and hide when they're faced with things they've promised because they recognize it's not going to be popular. It may be popular with a radical left base, but it's not going to be popular with the average American voter who does not want to see thousands of jobs in America lost due to the canceling of fracking and all of the other left-wing radical elements that are part of the Green New Deal. So overall, I would say Pence did very well. I did very much dislike the conduct of Kamala Harris, kind of smirking and a fake smile, and just a lot of the attitude that just didn't seem, to use the term that the left so often uses, didn't seem very presidential. You could picture Mike Pence walking in the Oval Office tomorrow if he had to, and doing a fabulous job as president. Kamala Harris seemed a little bit petty, a little bit petulant, a little bit angry, a little bit just snarky in a childish way, just not becoming of a presidential candidate. The other thing that's interesting, by the way, though, that the actual flat-out fib she told that I will just quickly share with you on going through the debate last night, you may have heard her mention when they were asking her, essentially, are you going to pack the court? Which she won't answer because she doesn't want to lie and say, oh, no, he wouldn't do that, because that's exactly what they have in mind. And she can't commit to that. She can't say, oh, no, we'd never do that, because she knows they will. But her answer, instead of responding to that question, was to tell a story about Abraham Lincoln and how he, Abraham Lincoln, old honest Abe, hey, we all love him, and how he had declined in the later part of his first term. He had declined to fill an opening on the Supreme Court when it became available in October. The election's coming in November, and he knew it just wasn't right. She tried to characterize his decision as he just knew it wasn't right, because after all, the people were about to have an election, and the new president should get to make that decision. So she made it sound like this is what Honest Abe did, is what she is advocating that Republicans should be doing, and that is not true. It was actually a great little report out of an organization that represents the Lincoln legacy, that speaks up for the record and corrects the record by Abraham Lincoln. And that group put out a statement. It's called President Lincoln's Cottage, PLC, a historical group and museum dedicated to preserving Lincoln's legacy. The simple fact is, he did have an opening in the Supreme Court. He did have a nominee in mind, and he did not ask the Senate to confirm that nominee before the election. But it was a flat-out, shrewd political calculation on his part that his choice for the Supreme Court might end up alienating voters. And so he decided, smarter for him to wait till after the election and make his appointment, his nomination then for that Supreme Court opening. So she lied about the important element. The point she was trying to make was say, well, this is just exactly what the Republicans should be doing. They should be acknowledging that this is wrong in this case to appoint a Supreme Court justice. Because, and look, Honest Abe figured that out. It wasn't true. That's not what Abe Lincoln did. But kind of wrapping up on the last kind of big point I want to make, I don't know, I'll tell you, we're trying to get, okay, we've got Louis Gohmert online. Last point I'll quick make, and I may come back to it later. But there was a whole big fuss on Twitter about the idea that during the debate, you had Kamala Harris said a line essentially to, Mr. Vice President, I am speaking. And it became hashtag I am speaking. And as women, liberal women who were having a fuss online, complaining about the idea that Kamala Harris, that you had some interruption occur. You had a few more interruptions by Vice President Pence than you did by Kamala Harris, but they both did it, interrupted and talked over each other. She does her I am speaking line, and Twitter went wild with this basic argument that, women are always picked on and men never listen to them, and I am speaking. One woman said, I'm going to tattoo that on my arm, I am speaking. And they were all outraged because she got interrupted by the vice president in the debate. And I'm going to just say this, ladies, man up. Seriously, you're running to become the second most powerful position in America, in the world, and you think you're okay to be the president? If you think Kamala Harris is that weak that she cannot handle being interrupted, like happens at every other debate, like happened between President Trump and Biden during that debate, there was interruption back and forth. You're really kind of insulting Kamala Harris, that she's this weak, fragile female who can't handle being interrupted. It's kind of like the people who used to say, I want equal pay on a pink platter. Sorry, you want to play in those leagues, you deal with interruption. She interrupted him, he interrupted her, and this is part of grown-up life in a presidential debate. And that, my very fine friends, is today's First Five.